Hey, you guys, welcome to another episode of the podcast with no name. And today we're actually going to be doing a book review. And today we're going to be reviewing the book, The Big Leap, by Gay Hendricks. So Ebony has already read this book. This is a new read for me. Ebony is the one who reads all the self-help, learn about yourself, figure everything, and then I catch up later. So this one is just going to be like one of two or three videos of us kind of breaking down the book, what we've learned, some epiphanies we've had, and some of the points of the book that we would also want to share with you. So if you read it, I hope you can enjoy our conversation about it. If you haven't, I hope it inspires you to read the book. And I hope that maybe even our review of it gives you some insights for yourself. By the way, my name is Paris. I'm sorry. I don't think I introduce myself. I'm Paris. You are?
I'm Ebony, and this is ARD, a real discussion.
All right.
We are the podcast with no name, and this is ARD, a real discussion.
All right.
I am Ebony.
And I'm Paris. So we're going to get into the book. So talking about that, before the book really gets into the main part, it's kind of like having people even address like what their problems could even be. And it's kind of the very first part that they have, let me look at the table of contents, is preparing yourself for the big leap. And it says the one problem and how to solve it. And so in the book, he discussed that the one problem that everybody has is the upper limit problem. Ebony, do you want to kind of break that down?
No, because you have my book, and what I'm doing right now is I'm going to the university catalog just to see if they got it up there, and if I could pull it up.
I thought you would like remember about it.
Well, how about this? Along as your, it was Gay Hendricks, right? That's the author.
Yeah.
So along with you going through, since you have the book, you'll have to lead the discussion. But along with you leading in discussion, I know I got some markers in there. So you just tell me what I marked, and I will tell you what I was thinking about when I wrote that or whatever, because I've read it maybe about 3 or 4 times now, and I don't really necessarily remember. I just know what my problems are, so I can work on it. You'll lead the discussion.
Okay.
The book.
Sounds good. So jumping right into it, the upper limit problem is basically saying that all of us only have so much tolerance for like happiness. And once we reach our tolerance, we tend to like self-sabotage and bring ourselves down to a space that we feel more comfortable because too many things are going right. And that's uncomfortable for us. So it's either in worrying, or it's even gone as far as to like making yourself sick in order to bring you down a notch when too many things are going well. And he was kind of explaining like, what is this human thing of like, why like would you do that? Like what makes us, it's not even a conscious thing, it's a subconscious thing, but why would that be a thing that we would do? Do you remember anything about that?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I did a video, I think I found it, and it may let me borrow it for 1 hour, but you know how I do. I take out books and then like I go beyond the expiration date and they block me. And then be calling me like, where my book? Okay, so anyway, sorry, back to this. So absolutely, I did a video on YouTube already, and it was talking about the bandwidth for positivity. And it was like, I realized in my own life that in the moments of feeling good, even when you think about intimacy, or, like, sex, which is natural, it's a biological need. and certain moments where you feel really good and you want to push away and you want it to stop, not because it's painful or anything. It's just because like it's beyond your threshold. Or like I can imagine with moms, that happen all the time with children, because you don't necessarily always want to be touched, and the kid is always want to be, especially when they're young, they want to hug you, they want to touch you, they want to be under you, they want to violate what you consider your personal space. And so, if you don't increase your bandwidth for that, then you're rejecting the kid, and it's like it's awkward, and the kid doesn't feel loved back, and then they stop doing it. And so it's like that's the benefit in being a parent. A parent is because in that context, you can always practice unconditional love. You really have no choice, right? Like it's kind of like an automated, it's automatically, even though some people reject it, but it's automatically, and it extends your bandwidth for positivity. But I chose not to like, have children biologically, or just to have any children right now in general. And so the closest thing to me that would extend like me stretching my bandwidth for, positivity and things that feel good would just be, the sexual part or the intimacy part of our relationship. And it's just like for a lot of people who didn't grow up in like touchy-feely situations, or people who with parents or grandparents or aunties or uncles who didn't necessarily express love, and you try to go into how you feeling and what you thinking, and they pushing you away, because they're not really comfortable with their emotions, and they don't really have the bandwidth to bond with you on that level, right? And so I just noticed it in my life, and I made a video talking about how we should practice extending that bandwidth. Like when you feel like you want to push away from something or someone because it feels uncomfortable, like you're having a conversation or you're connecting with somebody, your palms start sweating, your heartbeat race, or like any instance that you just want to push away, and you probably would right away. What if you just waited like 1 minute, started counting down in your mind, just to kind of increase that? Even though it feels good and it feels overwhelming, what if you just pushed yourself a little bit more, so that you're always constantly like growing and stretching, so that you can accept more positivity, so that you're not always secretly sabotaging the good, you know?
And that's exactly what the beginning of the book is about. It's about allowing yourself to allow the abundance of like love and security and creativity to live in your life without sabotaging it. And it actually says, like what you're saying in a part of the book, it says that human beings have very little experience with consciously cultivating the ability to feel more and more positive energy. So it's not even something that we even like really originally know how to do. And I just think about so often it's like, so many stories of people saying, hey, everything's going good. I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop, the next shoe to drop. Like everything's so good, something bad has to be around the corner. And you can't live in that happy space because you're looking for that next shoe to drop. And so the book was explaining exactly that's a lot of people's problem. It's they reach this threshold in their happiness, and it keeps them from moving on into the next space of their life and taking that big leap. And to really, I guess you would say, like, lack of a better word, their purpose. Because they're not willing to allow that much abundance, love, even success into their life. And it goes into a lot of reasons, why that is, some of the barriers are. And actually, let's go ahead and move into that, since we already have like the question of what the big one is. Let me go ahead and jump to that one. Do you remember when we were discussing yesterday what one of the first barriers was?
Oh, hold on. I got the book, girl. Hold on. I can tell you. Come on. So I need to go to page.
Oh, actually, before we go into the barriers, I realized he goes into the different zones.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So
What page are you on?
29. So he was kind of saying like the way to kind of solve the upper limit problem is to kind of shine a light or to become aware of some of the false foundations that have held up your upper limit problem. And so they're saying a lot of the activities that we do in the world fall into 4 main zones. And the first one was the zone of incompetence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's made up of all the things we're not good at. So for me and you both, that is choreography,
Technology,
writing for me,
pop culture,
song lyrics, never gonna happen.
That is not a weakness. That's creativity and innovation. People just hating.
I'm just saying, I'm never gonna have the right song lyrics.
Make up your own. That way they can't even ban you off of, you know how they be bleeping out or making it go silence. They can't even ban you, not even singing the right lyrics, girl. Get it?
But we're talking about, you know, the funny stuff, but there are like major things, like you were saying, technology, you know, writing. It could be, what else could it be? Budgeting for some people. You know, some people have a problem in like, you know, researching and problem solving. But anyway, these are things that you know in the world that you're not good at. And since it's in the zone of your incompetence, they're basically saying, like, why would you even waste your time in those spaces and those things? Unless it's a skill that you really want to like learn and achieve for yourself, like skiing, skateboarding, swimming. If you're not tech savvy, don't try to spend 2 hours trying to connect your Wi-Fi to your printer or your computer, whatever, if that's just not what you're good at. Just go ahead and delegate that to somebody else. There's no point in wasting your time and even giving yourself the frustration with those type of things. Anything you want to add to that, Ebony?
Nope, not yet.
The next one is the zone of competence. And the zone of competence are things you can do. Others can do them
Which most people are now.
Yeah.
That's the majority.
Yeah. So the zone of competence are the things you can do. Cook, clean, some people is drawing, singing, dancing, what else could it be?
Anything.
It's just basically the stuff that you're good at. Lots of other people are good at them, but it's what you're good at. The next one would be your zone of excellence. And the zone of excellence are things that you do extremely well. And he also said that most of us kind of do live in this place. I mean, more people are in competence, but there are quite a good number of us who live in our zone of excellence. So there's things we do really, really well. What is it for you, Ebony, that's in your zone of excellence?
Trying to think.
I thought you would have one like.
No, because I'm either really good at something or really bad.
There's no like middle ground.
I'm not a middle ground person. I find that it's like two extremes. Like, so I mean, I guess just like basic everyday. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
So to me, And it might be weird for people, like, for me to say that, but for me, I feel like being a mom,
Being a wife.
that's your zone of excellence. Your zone of competence.
No. It's because of the type of person that I am. It makes it excellent for whoever I am, whoever I'm, married to or in a relationship with.
Okay.
So to me, it's just being myself. It's competent to me, just like treat people the way you want to be treated. Duh. You know what I'm saying? Easy. You know what I'm saying? And to other people, it feels like a zone of excellence.
So since I know you well, I would say your zone of excellence is, and I know you're not going to agree with this, but public speaking. Right now, you don't want to agree with that, but I agree with it. Public speaking and writing.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your zones of excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones that immediately came to mind for
Mm-hmm.
me. When I went to your workshop recently, like, I've known you, we've talked about all these things and stuff, but when I went to your workshop, seeing you in your own space, in your own thing, outside of like the usual conversations we have, but how you're going to present it to the masses, I was extremely impressed. And of course, I've seen you do spoken word a few times and stuff. But yeah, that just recently that reminded me, like, yeah, this is cool. It's just like, I'm not shy, whatever, but I think just the ease of it, the like going with people to be like, all right, boom, got that, bring it back in, bouncing off of people, keeping it flowing and saying, hey, let's go. And also I think like of being like, okay, like, let me run it back again. It's not no problem. Somebody new just walked in, cool, let me run it back again for you. Where like to me, that might be like the one thing that gave me like a little like, I'm like, ooh, I gotta start over again. That's gonna be weird and awkward. You just heard it, I gotta say it again. Yeah. So, that's me, and I'm not a shy person, but I'm still very impressed with your presence in front of people and on stage. So I think that's a zone of excellence for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For me, another other zone of excellence I would think is, I say this to you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It to me is, I think it's being like a facilitator. An
amplifier.
You call it, yeah, an amplifier. Just because me personally, I go down so many like weird rabbit holes, and I get these weird like things that I'm like interested in. I have questions, and I'm going online and looking at these, and so people are like, hey, I had this idea and I'm not sure to do it, and I'm like, oh, I saw, or have you heard about, or blah blah blah, this now whatever. So I've always felt like that was my zone of excellence. My Snapple facts happen to be handy, all the time. Moving on to the next zone, which is the big zone that this book is talking about and what we're all trying to get to, is the zone of genius. And it says, liberating and expressing your natural genius is your ultimate path to success and life satisfaction. Your zone of genius is a set of activities you are uniquely suited to do. They draw upon your special gifts and strengths. Your zone of genius beckons you with increasingly strong calls as you go through life. And the thing about that is, as you've seen, most of us have trouble figuring out where we are in our zone of excellence. So if we're having issues figuring out where we're in our zone of excellence, how are we going to take that next leap to move into our zone of genius?
True that.
Yeah. And this is what, this book is kind of break down for you. Now I want to say, and I say this all the time, when it comes to your zone of genius, I say it
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Everybody's not meant to cure cancer.
Right.
Okay?
True. True.
So it doesn't mean that like your zone of genius has to be the next big business, the next big idea, the next thing that's going to change the world. But it may most definitely change yours. But it may not necessarily like change the world for everyone. You're going to figure out what's your zone of genius that brings you success and you happiness and you abundance and love and creativity. Um, and when you understand that there's abundance in the world about that, yours doesn't have to be what everyone else has told you it has to be. Um, and so you have to figure that out for yourself. And through this book, that's what I'm trying to figure out for myself as well. Yeah.
I think your zone of genius is being a snip. I mean, scurry,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think that most people can do that. And mixing being, in my opinion, an amplifier and then like a scurry,
Can you explain to people what a scurry is really quick?
even though it's kind of like crossing books.
Yeah.
But Who Moved My Cheese? It talked about four characters. Two are mice, two are little people. Him and Haw are the little people, and Sniff and Scary are Scurry are the mice. A
Mm-hmm.
sniff is a person who I feel like the sniff's greatest gift is being in the moment and picking up on cues to help is understanding to future moments. And so they see a lot of things that people don't see because they have the opportunity to just be and witness what's going on. And I feel like that is my natural zone of genius. That's a gift, to be a sniff. And yours is the scary because it's like, it's also ties into you being a how person. It's because it's not really about um what is happening and how it can or how it could hold you down or would hold you down. Is about, okay, if life is about change, it's time to change. Let's get it. Like, I don't even have to make a plan because that's like the spontaneity of life, right? So I
Mm.
don't really have to make a plan. Let's get it. And you think about in your life how many times it's just like, this is what we doing, and you like, all right, this what we doing.
Mm-hmm.
And as a how person, when you figure out, okay, if this what we doing, this how we gonna do it,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so I just think like that all ties into our zone of genius. Like for me, I understand the extremes very well. So I can tell you my zone of incompetence and I can tell you my zone of genius. I mean, zone of genius. But the two in between is like, they
And
both can improve. So
mhm, I understand that. And interesting. I have to think of, about that more. Um, and how like I can use that and better like understand that for myself. The interesting thing is that when I first like started reading this book and I was telling you like they were like, oh, there's an upper limit problem. You have a problem with reaching like a certain level of happiness and then you like kind of stop yourself. And I was thinking like, like, oh, that's not me. Like I'm a very easygoing person. I'm like chill. I don't have a problem. And so the book asks you, it says to think of a moment. There's something, they say there's even a feeling in your body of something that feels good to you. Something about today, something about yourself, something about whatever. And to think of that moment and to think about what you feel good and expand on it so if you feel good about this, what felt good about that, and just expand on it, keep expand on it and try to stay in that moment as long as you can. And I was doing that thinking about a moment I had with someone and it been really good. We spent some quality time and I was really, really proud of that. And in that moment, I was like, oh, but I didn't get to hang out with this person. And I was like, dang, I did it. It was like right there, because the whole time I was like, this not me. I'll read this book, figure out what it is, but like it's not me. Like that's cool. And then like in that moment, I was like, dang, it's me. I was like, I could have stayed in the moment of just like how much I enjoy like hanging out with this person. All of a sudden, and I just started thinking like, I didn't get to hang out with this person though. Like why? Like I'm supposed to be in this moment. Why am I thinking about that? Not to mention that this was midday. I had the rest of the day to hang out with that person and get that moment. Not even the rest of the day. I have, Lord willing, I have many other days to do exactly that. And so why would I harp on that when I'm in this moment? And I was like, so even if you think it's not you, it's really you. And so many moments in this book I've told you that I've read, and I'm like, I don't know how this applies to me, but I'll keep reading. And I've moved on past it. And I'm like, dang, gotta go back a few pages because so much later I realized like, oh, but I also think like, mind you, to get to your zone of genius, you have to have an ego death. And while I'm very good at killing my ego, I haven't killed it completely. And so going into this book and some of these things they read is like, you don't have the capacity to feel full happiness. And I'm like, have you met me? Like, come on now. Like, I'm chill. I can be happy. And so my ego was like, no, this doesn't apply to me. Like, no, I'm good. And, it'd take a moment later to be like, you might want to think about that. You might want to run that back really quick. Um, you know, and that's what I'm getting from this. So also about that, one of the very early things they talk about too, now we get into it that I mentioned it, is a lot of us move in spaces of our ego, especially when it comes to, yeah, I know, we have to break it up, but especially when it comes to our zone of excellence. But when you move into your zone of genius, you have to have a sort of ego death. And I want you to talk about that, Ebony. I think you're the most knowledgeable about that.
So I was just thinking about how to even talk about these, and a lot of the things that like I learn and read about is taking so many years and so many books, and it's just
Hold on,
like
let me turn. I'm not giving no free promotion.
it's just so hard to like, take it and simplify it so it's easy for another person to digest. And it's like when it comes to the ego, from what I gather, it's just so many processes. And the first one is like reconciling. And I don't really think that a lot of people reconcile that they're living. Like they know that they exist, right?
Mm.
But your ego kind of keep you thinking like, oh, but I got forever. I got tomorrow, I got next week, I got next year. And it's almost like it feels like a guarantee because of how your ego views like your existence here.
Mm.
And so killing your ego is in realizing, is really in reconciling like, okay, I was born, I was going to die. I mean, I'm going to die. And in between, I have the choice to live or to exist, right? Because you're born and you can just exist and then die. And then, like, living is an option. And so you have to reconcile, like, I'm here and I'm choosing to exist or live. And if you don't choose to exist, then you can always choose to go because that's always a choice that you have, right? If you don't want to exist anymore. But if you want to exist, then you get to choose like to what extent do you want to live? Is it like, do you want to just live a mundane life? Do you want everything to be routine? Do you want to have full stability? Or do you want to like, you know, um, live? Do you want to choose every single day, pick what you want to do, experience the life that you want to have? And in doing you know, making one of those three choices, which I know is very controversial. People don't like to, you know, think about suicide in that way. But in picking one of those things, I mean, you can always choose to pick another, but it's the full expression of it and stopping yourself from, you know, growing or living that life that you said that you know you want to have. So for instance, if you're choosing to exist, or you're choosing to live, let's give that example. You're choosing to live and you say, oh, I want to live a full life, but you know that certain things make you happy, but you don't want to do them. We talked a little bit earlier about, like, you know, you do certain things, you sabotage yourself so that you don't go out and do these things. So for instance, if you want to lose weight, then you start sabotaging yourself so that you don't work out, right? Ultimately you want to go out and meet people, but you know you're not going to feel confident if you have this extra weight. And so it's just like a whole cycle, right? And
Mhm.
so killing your ego is really just like you reconciling, you're here, you're making a choice, and you're being honest with yourself and holding yourself to certain levels of commitments and having integrity in those commitments.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are not that intentional, you know, about their existence. They're just kind of here, and they don't really think that it's a necessarily a choice. Society tell you, oh, it's not really a choice, you know, and then you feed your ego, or your ego keep you safe and nested until you'll
Absolutely.
get to live that life eventually, you know, maybe
Mhm.
next week, maybe next year, maybe you know, in 10 years. And it's that constant lying and pacifying of yourself that you don't go out and grow and get the things that you need to be your best self, to live that life, to do more than just exist, to, you know, create your own destiny, to push yourself. The more egotistical you are, the, you know, the less you're willing to try new things, get out your comfort zone, push
Mhm.
yourself, expand yourself, grow, because your ego just want to keep you safe. It want to keep you in la la land, thinking
Mhm.
that you got forever until you don't. You know, that's the most protective way, because that is just doing its job, basically.
Right. Right. And I want to add to that, but we're actually running a little bit out of time. So we're going to end this video. And then me and Ebony, we're going to come back to the same room. We're going to start back up and we'll continue on with that. So look
I
for us
talked too
in
long.
part two.
I talked too long. I'm sorry that I talked
No,
too
you're
long.
good. You're perfect. So we'll just see you guys in part two.
Okay.